The day I walked out of the Oregon State Correctional Institution, the November rain was coming down so hard it felt like the sky was trying to wash me clean. I stood outside the gate with a paper bag containing a dead phone, a wallet with $43, and the watch my father gave me when I turned 30. 9 years. 9 years inside for a crime I did not commit, while the world kept moving as if I had never existed. My name is Frank Callahan. I am 64. I built Callahan Freight Solutions from one truck and a rented Portland warehouse into a $42 million logistics company operating across 11 western states. I had a daughter, Lauren, who was my reason for getting up every morning, a wife, Carol, who I believed loved me, and a partner, Dennis Hartley, whom I trusted completely. Every one of those things turned out to be something other than what I believed. The tax fraud charges came in 2015. Federal agents entered my office carrying records for shell companies I had never heard of, offshore accounts in my name, fabricated invoices, and payments to vendors that did not exist. My accountant told investigators I had personally ordered him to falsify the books. He said it across my own conference table without blinking. My lawyer called it the most thorough financial setup he had seen in 30 years. The jury saw a wealthy man who had gotten greedy. I received 12 years and served 9. Carol visited twice during the first year. Both times she cried, promised she knew I was innocent, and said she would wait. The divorce papers arrived 14 months later. She wrote that she had found someone who could be present in ways I could not. That someone was Dennis. By then, very little surprised me. What broke me was Lauren. She was 27 when I went in, working in marketing and engaged. After Dennis took control, he cancelled her firm's contract. Her firm fired her. Her fiancé's family pressured him to leave the daughter of a convicted felon. The engagement ended. Lauren spent 3 years rebuilding, then moved to Tacoma, where nobody knew our name. She wrote faithfully at first, cheerful letters, carefully constructed to protect me. Then they became shorter, then they stopped. She always said she was fine. She was not fine. She had a son 3 years after I went away, Marcus. His father left when he was 18 months old. Lauren raised him alone, managing a dental office and driving a car with 200,000 miles on it. My daughter, who had grown up in a 4,000-square-foot house in Lake Oswego, was clipping coupons to feed my grandson. Dennis was living in that house. He had married Carol. He was running the company I built, calling himself the founder in interviews, sitting in my chair and parking beneath a sign where he had replaced my name with his. I learned the full truth through Ray Decker, a former Portland detective I hired, with the last money Dennis had failed to find. When I called from prison, he said, "I know your case. I always thought something was wrong with it." That was enough for me. Ray discovered Dennis had been stealing from the company for 4 years before my arrest. When the discrepancies grew too large to hide, he and Carol brought in Steve Molina, a forensic accountant who did clean work for dirty clients. Steve did not merely conceal Dennis's theft, he redirected it toward me. Accounts were opened with documents Carol could access. Invoices were backdated. My signature was forged. Every transaction was attached to my name. The evidence was immaculate because it had been designed to be. During my first week out, Ray slid the findings across a diner table. Steve had moved to Boise. Dennis had cut him off after my conviction. He was doing small jobs, drinking too much, and sleeping too little. Desperate men make the worst decisions, I said. Ray nodded. They also make the best witnesses. Before confronting anyone, I spent 3 weeks watching. Prison taught me that patience is a sharper instrument than anger. I went to Lauren first. She opened her apartment door and stared at me for 5 seconds before her voice broke. We sat at her kitchen table while Marcus did homework nearby. She finally told me everything: the job, the engagement, the years of starting over, and the nights her son heard her crying. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were in there and I was out here." What would knowing have helped? I had no answer. What I had was purpose. I told her I had spent 9 years building a case, a plan for taking back what had been stolen. "Dennis has money, lawyers, and 9 years of control," she said. "We have a rented apartment and a car that needs an alternator. We have the truth." She raised an eyebrow. "And? Me. He thinks I'm a broken old man coming home to nothing. He thinks the best I can do is be angry." Lauren called Marcus into the kitchen. He walked in with a pencil behind his ear and studied me with a 6-year-old's calm seriousness. "This is your grandfather," Lauren said. "You were in prison," he said. "I was." "You didn't do it." "No." He considered that. Like wrongful conviction. We learned about that. Exactly. Then he climbed into the chair beside me and spread his math worksheet across the table. That was the moment I understood exactly what I was fighting for. A week later, I found Steve Molina at a Boise coffee shop and sat across from him without asking permission. Recognition crossed his face, followed by fear and then relief. "I figured you would find me," he said. "Then say what you've been preparing to say." For 90 minutes, he filled every gap. Dennis hired him in 2014 to restructure the records, place the trail on me, get paid, and stay silent. Steve told himself rich businessmen were always guilty of something. Then I went to prison. Lauren lost her life, and he stopped sleeping. "I need a signed statement," I said. "Everything you did, everything Dennis ordered, every payment. If I do that, Dennis will come after me." Dennis will soon be in no position to come after anyone. He asked what he would get. "The chance to stop carrying this. I'll tell prosecutors you cooperated voluntarily. I cannot promise mercy. I can promise silence will be worse." He stared out the window. Then he said, "I kept copies, original documents, account structures, emails with Dennis, all of it. I kept my face still. Bring it to me." Ray and I assembled Steve's records, a second accountant signed analysis, and emails Dennis believed had been wiped. The emails contained his exact instructions. When everything was ready, I called Dennis. His voice was smooth and comfortable. "Frank, I heard you were out. How are you?" "Very well. I'm coming to the house Sunday at 9. He hesitated. "Tell Carol." Then I hung up. I arrived in borrowed clothes and a borrowed car. I wanted Dennis to see someone diminished and manageable. Carol opened the door. For 1 second, she called me by another name before correcting herself. Inside, my family photographs were gone, replaced by expensive things that said nothing. Dennis stood near the fireplace in a cashmere sweater and extended his hand. I did not take it. He began telling me he understood I had suffered, and that whatever hard feelings I carried— "I don't have hard feelings," I said. "I have evidence." The room stopped pretending. I told him about Steve's confession, the original records, recovered emails, and specialists prepared to authenticate everything. "You framed me because you were stealing," I said. "You wanted my company, my wife, and my house, and I was the solution to all 3 problems. You destroyed my daughter's life and stole the first 6 years of my grandson's life from me." Dennis started to deny it. I played Steve's recording. For 4 minutes, Steve described the shell companies, forged signatures, payments, dates, and Dennis's instructions. When I stopped it, the refrigerator in the kitchen sounded loud. Dennis looked at Carol, she looked back at him, and I finally understood what held them together. Not love, complicity. "What do you want?" he asked. "My company, my house. Every asset acquired with what you stole. Your written confession and complete cooperation with the federal investigation." Carol's statement acknowledging what she knew and renouncing any claim to the marital assets. "And my daughter and grandson made whole." "That's insane." "I spent 9 years in a cell, Dennis. I did not spend them grieving. I spent them planning. You had every advantage. I had time. I used mine more carefully." Carol finally spoke. "What happens to me?" I looked at her and felt no rage, only a finished sadness. "You tell the complete truth. I won't advocate for your prosecution. But if you hide anything, every detail becomes public." She nodded once and never looked at Dennis again. The negotiations lasted 11 days. His lawyers cited statutes of limitation, challenged admissibility, and threatened a defamation suit nobody believed. I never raised my voice. Dennis pleaded guilty to federal tax fraud, conspiracy, and financial forgery. He received 10 years, with possible parole after 7. Carol avoided charges by cooperating fully and moved to her sister's house in Phoenix. Steve received a suspended 18-month sentence, 3 years probation, and a permanent ban from financial services. Later, he sent me a handwritten apology ending with, "It is not enough, but it is everything I have to give." I put it in a drawer. Justice came faster than rebuilding. The company looked profitable, but Dennis had hollowed it out. Contracts had lapsed, clients had left, and distribution centers were underused. The board rediscovered its principles once the evidence turned. Lauren returned to Portland, though not to the company. That was her choice. She found an apartment, enrolled Marcus in a school with a strong art program, and rebuilt on her own terms. Marcus and I claimed Saturday mornings at a diner. He told me about his week. I told him stories about his mother and his great-grandfather building a business from nothing. 8 months after I moved back into the house, I sat on the porch while Oregon's autumn light turned everything old gold. Inside, Lauren and Marcus argued cheerfully about where forks belonged on the table. Lauren once asked whether hatred had damaged me more than prison. I thought for 3 days before answering. It wasn't hatred, I told her. Hatred is formless and corrosive. What I felt was precision. I decided to work longer, wait longer, document everything, and stay quiet until the moment was right. That is what it looks like when a man refuses to let the worst thing that happened to him become the only thing that defines him. She looked at me and said, "You're going to need to be less intense when Marcus's teachers call." I told her I would try. My wrongful imprisonment claim provided roughly $50,000 for each year I lost, about $450,000, a large number until measured against lost earnings, a stolen company, Lauren's damaged career, and 6 years of my grandson's life. My civil cases continued. The money mattered, but the legal acknowledgement mattered too. What happened was real, it was wrong, and the people responsible were accountable. Still, no court can return ordinary days. Marcus once told me it was unfair that we had missed each other for so long. It was unfair, I said. It is also over. Every Saturday breakfast, every family dinner, every ordinary day from now on belongs to us. We are going to use them. He considered that. Okay. But forks still go on the left, he was right. If someone betrayed you because they counted on your trust, understand this. They probably calculated the cost of hurting you. What they did not calculate was patience. They did not calculate the purpose that comes from having nothing left to lose and everything left to prove. They did not calculate what a person can do after deciding their story is not finished. Dennis thought I was a broken old man. He was wrong about the broken part. My name is Frank Callahan. I walked out of prison with $43, a dead phone, and one complete, documented plan. I got my house back. I got my company back. I got my name back. More than any of that, I got every Saturday morning at a diner with a boy who has my stubbornness, his grandmother's eye for color, and an opinion about fork placement I would not argue with for anything in the world. The people who tried to erase me are gone. I am still here. Keep fighting. Document everything. Be more patient than your enemy. The truth surfaces eventually, no matter how deep someone tries to bury it.